What is going on, YouTube? So woke up today with a little bit of snow outside, so I think it's time to officially retire this car for the year. I'm going to be putting it on storage, and so in today's video I'm just going to prep my procedure on how I store this car for winter. Now, I didn't think this was a controversial topic, but talking with some of my other M3 enthusiasts, apparently it is a bit of a controversial topic. Everyone has their different opinions on what you should and shouldn't do. So I'm just gonna walk you through what I do. Whether or not you choose to follow this advice is completely up to you, but I've been doing this for the past, I don't know, 3-4 years, and it's always worked for me. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm gonna walk you through what I do. Again, this is by no means a perfect science, but it works for me. So first thing I typically do is I wash the car and do an oil change. So I did an oil change last month. So it may not be the freshest oil, but it's also not the oldest oil. Now, the reason you might want to do an oil change before storage is that you don't want your old dirty oil to sit in your engine, especially with the oil not circulating for months on end. So again, I changed it last month. It's not the newest, but it's also not the oldest. So typically that's step one for me, do an oil change. Second step that I do is I wash the car. Now, this is something that you don't necessarily have to do, but I just feel ways about storing my car when it's all dirty and dusty. I don't think it's necessarily great for the paint, so I did this a couple of weeks ago, froze my ass off, but I think it's a little worth it. Third thing that you want to do is regards to your tires. So you're obviously not going to be driving your car for months on end while the winter is going on, and your car is not going to be moving, so it could develop flat spots. So there are a couple ways to address this. You can either get one of those flat spot stoppers, but in my honest opinion, they're a little bit expensive. So what I typically do is I just go and overinflate the tires. So I normally have my tires at around 33, 35 PSI. I'm gonna do it all the way up to 45 on all four corners and just leave it at that. Got this little handy DeWalt. Is this DeWalt? I don't think it is actually. Some bootleg tire inflator, but does the job. Pumping this up to 45, and again, I'm gonna do this on all four corners, and then that should prevent any flat spots from developing. I don't know if you can see this shit out here, but it is snowing, and it's still November. Like, it's way too early for this shit. This next one is a bit odd, but hear me out. Dryer sheets. I typically throw these in the interior, engine bay, and the trunk. And the reason because, especially for the interior at the very least, it doesn't give you that stale stench in the spring, if that makes sense. Yeah, it leaves the interior smelling a bit more fresh. No, but in all seriousness, I did hear that rodents do not like the smell of dryer sheets. And I don't know if that's true or not, or if I'm talking on my ass, but I've been throwing these in the car all over just to play it safe. The last thing I want is for rodents to be eating all of my wiring or just getting in the car, period. So again, let's take one, throw it in the passenger seat, driver's side, let's throw it all over the interior. Go in the trunk real quick. Throw it in here, and I'm gonna do that the same for the engine bay. So next we're gonna throw a little bit of fuel stabilizer in the car. So again, the car is gonna be sitting, it's not gonna be started. The fuel is just gonna be sitting there, and it can go stale. So throw a little bit of this in there, let the car start and run for about 5 minutes or so, get it through the system, and then that way it prevents the fuel from going stale. And then the next time you start it up in the spring, it'll start right up. So this calls for, I think, 1 ounce per 10 liters. And off the top of my head, I think this is like a 50 liter, 55 liter tank. So I'm gonna throw about 5.5 ounces in here. All right, stabilizer's in. I'm just gonna let this thing run for about 5 minutes or so. I haven't started this car in 2 weeks, so jury's out whether or not it'll start. Oh, like a champ. So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna let this run for about 5 minutes, let the fuel stabilizer get through the system, and then I'll go through the next couple of steps that I do. So while the car is running here, you definitely don't want to be starting your car in the middle of winter and letting it run like this. Ideally, if you're gonna start your car, you're driving it around, you're getting it up to the operating temperature, and by letting it sit and run for about 20 to 30 minutes, it's actually doing more harm than good for the motor. You always want to get it to starting temperature. You always want to get the motor up to operating temperature every time you start it. Now in this case, I am kind of breaking the cardinal rule, but I'm just letting the fuel stabilizer run. I'm not going to be doing this repeatedly. So when you're storing your car, resist the urge to just let it start up, hear your engine, hear that exhaust, resist all that urges. Just wait patiently till the spring, start it up, take it out for a drive, let it get up to operating temperature. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. I heard my cold weather warning pop off because it's 3 degrees Celsius. So turn this bad boy off. While we're in here, during storage, I typically let the handbrake off and throw it in first gear. Now, I've heard this is because you don't want your handbrake to be sticking when you take your car out in the springtime and then you drop your handbrake, but it's still a little bit on and it's rubbing and sticking. You don't want that, so typically handbrake off, leave it in first, and I will crack the windows ever so slightly. Again, kind of the same thing. These are pillarless doors, so you don't really want your windows to be stuck. All right, last but not least, I am going to be throwing on a battery tender, aka a trickle charger. So there are a couple of ways you can do this. You can actually take the battery out completely, store it inside, or you can run your trickle charger up to the battery. In this case, mine's in the trunk, but BMW put a positive battery terminal here, so I am just gonna plug the positive in there, run the negative against the strut bar, and plug it in. And that way the battery is maintained, it doesn't die out. And again, you don't come waking up, start your car in the spring and wake up to a dead battery. So I am using a C-Tech charger. I think everyone and their mother would recommend if you're gonna store your car to get a C-Tech. It is expensive, but it's really worth it. So got my positive and negative cables here. I'm gonna try and do this one-handed. So got my positive terminal here. Pop that shit open. Put that in here, and then for the negative, for the negative, I just attach it to one of my nuts on the strut bar there. So trickle charger hooked up. You can see here it's slowly charging it, and then it's gonna go to the full and then hold it there. And that way, when you come to start up your car in the winter, you don't have a dead battery, because no one wants that. And check out that Group M intake, beautiful. So obviously we're not gonna fully close the hood here, but and that's that. So now that the mechanics are more or less sorted out, the last thing I do is just throw a car cover on, keep the dust off it. My paint ain't exactly great, but it's actually pretty decent, so I'm trying to preserve that. So I'm just gonna throw on this cover. It's always a bit of a faff to get it on, but I'll get it on.
One eternity later.
That is it, boys and girls. So car is prepared for storage. It's gonna be a long 4 months, but it'll be worth it. Thanks for watching. That's my routine on how to store the car. Let me know if you do anything differently, or if you have any advice for me on what to do next time. But see you guys in about 4 months in the spring. Peace out. Take care. Stay safe.